Hey everyone, it's Kayla from The Casual Crafter, and today we're going to be making a DIY bookcase. I made this bookcase with my fiance, and we made it in kind of a mid-century modern / industrial style. And it's going here in our bedroom, which is kind of a mixture of industrial and boho-y styles, so I thought it would fit in really well. As a disclaimer, we've never made any furniture pieces before, nor are we experts in this field of any way, so please take it easy on us, and I hope this just gives you inspiration as to something you might be able to do yourselves. I know this is a little different from my usual DIY videos, but I thought it was something interesting that I made and I wanted to share it with you guys. So if you're interested in seeing how we made this DIY bookshelf, be sure and stick around, hit that subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get right into the video. Alright, so starting out here, this is just an idea of the measurements I'm doing for this bookshelf. So you'll need 3 1x10 boards, and those aren't exactly 1x10 measurements, so keep that in mind when you're doing this. And then I leave down below here all the different size boards that we're going to be measuring and then cutting these out too. So if you want to actually make this, be sure and screenshot this here. So like I said, I want to give a big shout out to my fiance here for helping me with this video. So we're going to be going through and measuring out all those boards. And make sure you measure twice and cut once. You don't want to make any mistakes. And actually we had these pre-cut in half to around 48 inches at the store. However, they weren't exactly 48 inches, so we had to trim them off ourselves. And now we're just going to be going in with this Black & Decker jigsaw. I can leave a link to that down below. Obviously, if you have a chop saw or something like that, that's going to be a better option here, but this is what we have. And here's just the end that we needed to trim off on that excess piece. We live in an apartment, so we don't have a whole lot of space to be doing all these things, so we actually used our kitchen table and took the leaf out to do so. Up next, I'm going to be using this palm sander. I got it as a gift, so I don't know the link or anything to where it is. First, you're going to want to start out with a low grit sandpaper. It'll do the best job at getting all the rough surfaces sanded down first, and then go in with a finer grit later on. So I started out with 80 grit sandpaper and then transitioned to 120 grit. And I want to make sure I sand all the edges and everything because this was fairly inexpensive wood, and that's an important step to do, is to make sure it's sanded well. And also the blue that was on it, I had trouble getting off, but it ended up getting covered up with stains, so if that's an issue, make sure you're paying attention to the boards that you get. I'd also like to mention that before we started this project, it's a good idea to let your boards acclimate to the environment that you're going to be using them in. So we let these sit inside for 3 days, and some of them did warp in that time, but it's better for that to happen before you put the bookshelf together as opposed to having it happen later. Now here I'm just going to be going in with this Varathane wood stain, and I really like this color. It's in golden oak, and it matches a lot of things in the bedroom that I have. So I'm just going to be giving that about 3 coats of that, and letting it dry in between. I started out with a foam brush here, and then I transitioned to using a rag, and I really prefer staining with just a rag. I know a lot of people like to stain with a foam brush and then wipe it off, but I find I get a better and more even coat when I just use the rag. Make sure when you are staining, you do it in a well-ventilated area. I'm doing this outside on our deck, so that's a good area to do it in, or if you have a garage or something like that, as long as the door is open, that's good as well. Now this part, it gets a little bit tricky. We're going to be using this dowel jig that we got off of Amazon. I'll leave a link to that down below, as well as any of the other tools or things that I used in this DIY. So we're just going to be measuring out where we're going to want to drill those holes for the dowels. And it's important when you're screwing to use painter's tape or some kind of tape, because that helps to keep the wood from splitting. I know a lot of people use this trick when they're drilling handles into cabinets and everything. It helps to keep the wood from splitting, and so we decided to do it here as well. So I didn't film this super well, but you're going to be lining up the drill bit and this dowel jig. There's directions to exactly how to use it that come with it. However, it kind of is self-explanatory. You kind of line it up with where you want the hole to be, and then you have the stopper on the end, and it stops the drill bit from going in too far. And then you get the little pocket for the dowel. And then when you want to line up on any right corners, you're going to be lining them up like we clamped these boards together here. And it just actually slides into the dowel on the side. And that lines it up perfectly so that you can get it in the exact correct location. It's kind of interesting how it works, but I don't think I'm going to be doing it any favors by explaining it. Like I said, if you're interested in this, be sure and check out that link on Amazon or get one yourself. Or you could just end up using screws for this project if you don't care if they show. But we wanted to try to give it a more clean look, and that's why we used dowels on the majority of the project, and then on the bottom we ended up using screws just for a little bit better support. And that's what we're kind of going to be doing here. We're just going to be lining up that dowel jig and drilling into the wood in the different areas. And we used a flashlight there just to make sure we could get it lined up really well. Having the painter's tape on there not only provided the extra protection from having the wood split, but it also gave us something to write on for our measurements and everything. And there's my dog there. She wanted to help out. So once you finish drilling all of the dowel holes, I think it's very important to dry fit the piece together so that you make sure that it all fits together correct before you end up actually gluing it, which is going to be the next step here. And I just used some Gorilla Wood glue. You want to make sure you use a generous amount of this and don't go too light on it because it is your main source of hold in this project. So I was just using an old makeup brush and decided I would throw it out afterwards to spread the wood glue, and then make sure you wipe it down as well. That's why we stained first, actually, was so that if there was excess glue on the side, that area that you have the glue on won't actually stain itself. So staining first avoids that issue. And then we screwed in the bottom bit. I think you can kind of understand what we did. We just screwed in the areas where we would put a dowel normally on the bottom there. And then after that, I made sure to apply 3 coats of polyurethane. I just used the polyurethane from Minwax. And the polyurethane helps to add an extra protective layer for dusting or anything like that, just to make sure that the surface isn't getting damaged. Like I said, I gave it 3 coats, and then I sanded in between those coats just to make sure I picked up any excess pilling or anything like that and made sure it was a smooth surface. So these legs are hairpin legs that I got off of Amazon. They came in a 4-pack and they were fairly inexpensive for the pack of 4. So we're just going to be measuring those out on the bottom and screwing those in as well. They came with some screws, as well as I had a few on hand that would not go too far into the wood because this is a pretty thin board. And I think these really help to add that more industrial type feel and also kind of make it mid-century modern in style. And I think this turned out really nice. It looks really great in our bedroom and matches our decor in there and everything. Like I said, it's about 48 inches by about 30 inches tall, so it provides us with a little bit of extra storage. However, we don't have a ton of books on there yet, but I think this turned out really nice and it was pretty inexpensive to make. Obviously, it was our first furniture piece we were making, so it didn't turn out perfect, but overall, I think it turned out really nice. And here I have it styled just with some books and some decor that I had. We plan to add some more books, obviously, in the future, but I think this turned out really nice, and I'm really happy with it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure and like and comment down below if you enjoyed this video. Please take it a little easy on us. This is the first furniture piece we've ever made, so I think it turned out pretty good for what we were working with. And if you enjoyed this type of video, be sure and leave a comment down below and let me know that. I know this was a bit different than a lot of my DIY videos, but I hope you were able to at least get some inspiration from this and able to think of some ideas you might be able to make yourselves. And if you haven't already, be sure and check me out over on Instagram. It's at The Casual Crafter. And if you've made it this far in the video, be sure and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks again. Bye!